Greetings! It is I, Titus Narvan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time for Gathering the Roll, the only news program supported by the Empire, with exciting and fantastic news from collectible card games such as Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh!, from role-playing games such as Dungeons & Dragons, Shadowrun, and Pathfinder, and of course, board and card games too. But let's dive into the news for this week with, of course, collectible card games. We're going to start out with, as usual, Magic the Gathering. First off, the new banned and restricted list has come out. No changes in Modern and Standard, but there have been some changes in Legacy and Vintage, along with a couple of the other lesser formats. So if you want to check the entire changes out now, links will be in the description. Of course, there have been a number of new changes in products and product announcements. Commander 7 2017 has been announced to be tribal-themed decks, so anticipation for that has become higher. And they've also announced a second of their sort of Master Series, Iconic Masters, for the end of the year. There seems to be a little bit more controversy related to this one. If you want a full bit on that story of Iconic Masters, we were discussing it this weekend on Discussing Tabletop. You can check out that, of course. It should be out now, up on the channel. Now we do want to move on, of course, to some more Vampire the Eternal Struggle news. We're getting close to that big Berlin World of Darkness convention, and of course the big tournament there, where we're introducing Vampire the Eternal Struggle Anthology. But with it, two special storylines have been released along there that you can participate in now. You can check out the rules, build appropriate decks related to them, and play them out all you want now. But the two storylines are Ascension of Cain and End of the Line. I'll have links to both those in the description below if you want to check them out and play with them in your Vampire the Eternal Struggle games. Now let's of course move on though to our role-playing game news. In role-playing game news, we start out with D&D, of course. It's the final Unearthed Arcana in the latest season of them. This April, the end of this month, right now, and marks the end of Unearthed Arcana's current season. This one's coming out with a little bit of a bang though. We're introducing feats for races. Now for the races of the player's handbook, each of them has a number of feats related to them that's being provided that expands upon the natural abilities of said races. So you can check them out now, of course, because they are in Unearthed Arcana. They are completely optional and in playtest. So if you are a dungeon master, you want to use them, go ahead. Or if you're a player and wish to use them, go ahead and ask your DM. Let's move on though to some Pathfinder news from Paizo, of course. Paizo has released two new products. First off is Player's Companion, Heroes of the Darklands. This has your players basically exploring the Darklands, the underground caverns and realms deep beneath the surface of Golarion. And this is helping you build some heroes specifically tailored to adventuring in these parts. Also out, of course, though, is the next adventure in the adventure path, Iron Fang Legion, Assault on Longshadow. Focusing on the city of Longshadow and having your players effectively deal with the Iron Fang Legion attempting to control it, but also then trying to wrest control back from them. So an interesting storyline revolving around this one city. Also out now, though, is the Hypercorpse Wasteland 2099 RPG campaign setting. This is specialized, more post-apocalyptic campaign setting to be used with the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons rules. So you can check out this setting now to use along with your 5th ed D&D rules set. Also out for the Mutant Chronicles RPG is Dark Eden, providing you more bits of information for expanding your Mutant Chronicles games and adding to information already provided in the previous book. Guess what? They've got a new expansion out here you can check out now. Also out in the Conan RPG, the one that's just come out recently, they have a new player's guide out that you can get. Once again, expanding on previous information provided about the various basic book, basically giving you more options for playing for your players. Also out now is the Awakened RPG. This one has been released, of course, only in digital format for now. The physical copy will be coming out soon. But if you want to check out this new, interesting fantasy RPG setting set in a war-torn world, after the results of this massive battles and such, fantasy-based world, you can check it out now. It's just come out in digital distribution. Also out is the Quandary fantasy RPG system. Just as many things in Dungeons & Dragons often find time influence from Tolkien, this one is taking its influences directly from another fantasy writer, Lord Dunsany. So if you're familiar with any of the works of this famous fantasy writer, or if you want to find out a little bit more about this world that you might be jumping into, you could always check out his writing. But it's based upon his various fantasy elements he's written about, and it's a new RPG out now. So that's it for the news for this week. Of course, links to any of these news stories will be in the descriptions below. Remember to like, subscribe, and of course, share. It's very important to share the news. If you have any questions about any of these news stories, anything related to any of these news stories, please just leave them in the comments below. We will also take suggestions for discussion questions related to these news stories for discussing Tabletop this weekend, if you wish to leave them in the comments below. You can also, of course, email us at discussingtabletop@yahoo.com for said discussion questions or suggestions for topics. We will be on, of course, once again, hopefully with 5 total guests, including me and Joe, at www.twitch.tv/TantusandDracovin, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Saturday. Hope you can join us there for discussing Tabletop. But if you do want to show extra support for the channel and the Empire, you could always check out my Patreon, link description below. More updates have been put into it over the past couple of weeks. Exciting new things that reflect growth in the channel that you can help out with. But until the next time, I bid you farewell.